Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another one of my Outlander videos and my review of episode 3 of season 3. So once more, another episode has come and gone, and we're closer to the finale and possibly another long wait to follow before we get to yet another season. So yes, that is always the sad part, especially with shows that have short season runs like Outlander. Now I'm gonna do my review differently this time around and start off by discussing one of the things that I love the most about Outlander before I ease into my review. So on my reviews, I don't usually sound like I care about the romance part of TV series. I actually do, by the way. There are just two different things that come into play there. So depending on the genre of the TV series, I might actually care less about the romance. But besides that, I just don't care about the corny kind of TV romance. It's just that at some point you get tired of stereotype TV romance. Let's break them up over something stupid to bring them back together, only to break them up once more and just keep doing that. Now, the lack of such a stereotype is one of the things that I love about the Outlander kind of romance. I first decided to watch the series before I read any of the books. I was actually only encouraged to do the latter as of recently when the series took its long-ass break post its second season. The one thing that attracted me the most on the posters of the series back when I started watching it was the feel of the portrayal of a different era. But surprisingly enough, the romance was kind of different. No TV and movie romance stereotype. Relationships, romance, and love are all things that are extremely complicated as is in real life. And TV depictions of those just try to take those kind of complications to a whole new annoying and unrealistic level. And it is in not doing this that the novels in the series managed to succeed. The separations are done elegantly and for good reason. There are no breakups over stupid reasons. And the emotions and the passion feel pretty real there. But let's move on and get to discuss this week's episode, which was otherwise titled All That's Paid. So when speaking of Clare's life, which happens to have seen many time jumps over the course of this episode, there's a lot to say, mostly about Frank. One thing for sure is the actor just delivers. It's really saddening chances are we'll not see him again for the rest of the show's shelf life. Or at least we'll barely see him, possibly in flashbacks. But Tobias Menzies really plays a great role. As satisfying as it was to see him get the short end of the stick on the premiere, dying in battle as Jonathan Randall, it was a real sad moment watching him lay dead on this episode. Katrina Balfe as well delivers in that final scene. Her sorrow for his death is real, and clearly mixed with guilt at how miserable she's made the man since she came back from her time-traveling experience. Now, the episode, which saw many time jumps on Clare's end, went from an initial jump to 1956 to much larger jumps later on, bringing us all the way to Brianna's graduation in 1966. That seemingly gets us closer to the much anticipated reunion of Clare and Jamie. But then again, there is much more dialogue and scenes to be seen on Clare's end before she goes through those stones. As indicated by the promo of the upcoming episode, that will include a research of Jamie's whereabouts. Now, we get to know early on in the events of the episode that Clare and Frank's relationship is still irreparable. He's having an affair that she knows about and seems relatively fine with, but should it still be called an affair if his wife decided to be distant, married another man for a few years while still married to him, fell in love with that other man, and also happens to know about said affair of his? I'm not sure really, and I'm not gonna be wasting time on technicalities, I guess. But I don't really know if Clare had the right halfway through the episode to rage and call Sandy a harlot. I mean, she is entitled to her anger about the whole part with the woman showing up at her doorstep. But nonetheless, and as Frank stated, she started this whole let's lead separate lives thing. Besides that, she could not have wished for someone who could care for her daughter more. Frank just happens to be a good father to the daughter of the man whom he believes has come between him and his wife. You really get to admire how the character is being portrayed all the way through this part of the season. As I mentioned early on, we hated Jonathan Randall so frickin' much. Yet the way Frank is being portrayed, you just easily manage to sympathize with him. It's kind of like all the top moments on this episode, all my favorite moments about it, are all about Frank. The way he goes about stating how he would hate to get a divorce just so he wouldn't be away from Brianna, for example, is just very genuine and very good acting right there. Frank, though, in 1966, is finally willing to get a divorce, get remarried, and get love back in his life. Claire's biggest problem with all of this, though, is the possibility of having her daughter lost to Frank. Now I do understand where she's coming from, being a mother and all, but from start to finish she's been extremely self-centered and selfish when it came to her relationship with Frank. She's definitely made him feel inferior to Jamie in her life. Even at that moment where she's outraged he wants to leave with their daughter, she once more makes it clear she could never forget Jamie. But speaking of Jamie and on his end, a lot has been happening as well. We start off with a time jump of 2 years before we get the events of an entire year consolidated in one episode. And as I promised on my review last week, there is nothing ordinary about his imprisonment. Jamie has gotten a new title among the prisoners. They call him MacDo. There's a new warden in town, and his name is John Gray, the very same Gray who owed him a debt his brother supposedly paid on the premiere. I really loved how Myrta made a comeback, and hated how they had to be separated at the very end. The conversations they had throughout were a mix of funny and touching. The way Jamie told him about the very first meal he shared with John Gray, that was just hilarious. It was like the man has never seen food before. The developments in Jamie and Gray's friendship and how they both came to discuss the elephant in the room, that being their past encounter, was enjoyable to watch as well. The final Jamie and Gray scene though, with the former heading to start a new chapter in his life in Hellwater, promises a whole lot in next week's episode. It's gonna be yet another interesting chapter in Jamie's life. It's just going to keep getting better and better. So far though, the show seems to be sticking to the novels, so there's nothing much to talk about here in terms of deviations. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. Let me know as well if you liked the way I've started this video. Would you like for me to start off my future reviews of Outlander with this little snippet on what makes the show a better one in its genre? Or was that just a waste of time? Do let me know as well what your favorite part of the episode was, and when you believe we'll be watching the much anticipated reunion between Jamie and Clare. I pretty much think it's gonna be right at the end of episode 5. But do make sure you slap this video a much appreciated like if you liked its content, and while you're at it, you can always subscribe and enable notifications. And until I see you next time, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.